Good evening and welcome to another dog walk. It's minus 18 degrees outside today again, which, again, if according to my quick mental math, is about, somewhere between minus 25 and minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So Daisy's not going to be able to last long. Yesterday I had to carry her after only a few minutes of walking, so yeah, we'll try to keep it quick today. Today's topic, sorry, I was looking at Daisy, who looked like she was about to stop to do some business, but well, actually I'm monitoring to see if she's gonna stop to do business or if her paws are already cold. So today's topic is going to be, sorry, actually Daisy's stopping to do business, so I'll be back in a second. No, it's not easy to juggle 2 dog leashes, 2 gloves, a cell phone, and a doggy bag. But anyway, so as I was about to say, today's topic that I want to talk about was actually triggered by a quick, I wanted to talk about it, but the reason why I'm talking about it today is because I saw a little clip, a YouTube short. It was Ricky Gervais responding to Stephen Colbert, who was kind of asking him, you don't actually truly believe in your atheism, right? And Ricky Gervais' point, which I thought was actually quite well made, was that, basically, humans have, if you look at all of humanity, there's, let's say, about 3,000 gods, right? The number doesn't matter. His point to Colbert, was that basically, I'm just more thorough than you. Because you, Stephen Colbert, Daisy's paws are already cold. I'm gonna take her home. Yeah, let's turn around. Daisy, let's go this way. Daisy's already limping. Okay, sorry. I knew it. So, yeah, he was saying, I'm just more thorough than you, right? You don't believe in 2,999 gods that humans have described. I just don't believe in one more than you, right? I thought that was a very interesting way to put it. So, yeah, today I want to talk about a comment I had made in one of my first videos, where I kind of stated, yeah, Daisy, I know you're cold. We're going home, okay? Let's go. We're going home. Oh, no. Okay, you're doing. Ah, shit. Mista, Daisy, come. Hi, neighbor. Yeah, I'm bringing her home. We got up to here and she started to limp, so I'm going with Mistra and yeah. So as I was saying, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. That was one of my neighbors, and while wearing gloves, I can't really pause, and I don't really want to stick my tongue out to lick my phone to pause it with the neighbor in front of me. Anyway, sorry for that peek behind the veil there about how I actually pause a camera. Oh my, Miska's tangled. Can I? No, that won't get her. Okay, I'll just get home and I'll untangle Mistra. I'll get rid of Daisy and I'll be back. Okay. So, Daisy is now back in the house. Mistra's untangled. Let's keep going. So, I believe I left off just after the Ricky Gervais response. So, yeah, as I said, I want to talk about a comment I had made a few videos ago, in one of the first, I think, where I kind of casually stated that, in my opinion, agnosticism is the only justifiable position when it comes to religion. And don't get me wrong, I understand why and respect that other people do not share my beliefs. I'm just trying to explain how I came to my beliefs, and maybe that will help you figure something out that you might not have thought of. Or maybe you will think of something that I haven't thought of. And if so, please, let me know down below, because I'm always looking to reevaluate my beliefs and my preconceptions. So with that disclaimer out of the way, and again, not trying to claim any type of superiority, just trying to explain how I got to a certain point, and hoping to see where my train of thought may be wrong. Why do I think that Agnosticism is the only tenable position, and that even atheism is as ridiculous in quotes or whatever, italics, as religion is, or is no more logically sustainable or arguable than religion is, any religion, even if your religion is the great big flying spaghetti monster in the sky. So why do I say that? Well, first, I'm not sure if I want to or have the time to go into my religious background. I've spoken about it a little bit. I'll just say that I've always, since relatively young age, I would say, I've been interested in other ways of thinking, other religion. I had mentioned my religious religions of the world class, or whatever it was. That was one of the things that opened my eyes. What I failed to mention at the time was that before that class even started, internet was relatively new. I was in forums, browsing this and that. I came across this thing called the Wicca, and so even before I knew about Buddhism, I was reading all about Wicca, which, if you don't know, is a kind of a new age religion based on the old traditions of the old world, Druidic and that type of magic. And basically, it's a quote unquote religion that believes in magic and that have spells and all that. And so even before I started, and I was actually, and it's a very female focused, sorry to say, or at least it was from what I read at the time. Hopefully I'm not too wrong about that. But it was a very female focused religion, let's say, because the power of the womb and bringing life and all that. So all the covens, they always mention witches, and it's anyway, that's beside the point. One thing, so why I'm mentioning that is that I was the one guy who chose to do his presentation in the world religions class on Wicca. So, that's something that 90% of other people in the class hadn't even heard of. So I've always been trying to keep an open mind to study other religions, or at least the core beliefs. That was the first thing that I studied, because I've always, what's interesting the most to me about religion is the philosophy that's attached to it. What's the moral code? What did this religion teach you? And how does that affect your worldview and how you act, right? I think there's a big difference between someone who believes in, the Christian afterlife and heaven and hell, and how they will behave, compared to, let's say, someone who believed in the old Greek gods and their version of the afterlife, and how those people would behave. Or, how someone who believes in reincarnation and karma and all that stuff, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, karma has nothing to do with your current life. That's a misconception. The karma that you gain in this life is what's going to determine your position in or status in the next life. And your position in this life is determined by your karma in the previous life. So, sorry, those who think that, I'm going to get good karma and it's going to help me out later down the line. Sometimes I say that and I thank the universe that, hey, I must have accumulated enough karma points. But I know that that's not actually how it works in that religion. Anyway, so yeah, I started out by studying the religions, every religion that I could find, to look into the philosophy behind it. Recently, and this was like for several decades, recently over the last year or two, as I was listening to so many different things while I was gardening outside, I came across some channels that were more mysticism focused, I'll say. And I've been delving into the mythology and history of these religions, and I've been finding it so interesting to find all the common points shared between all the religions. Compare, if ever you think Jesus is an original figure, look up Mithras, right? So anyway, I've been finding that extremely interesting. So I do try to study this as much as possible, not in a necessarily rigorous academic sense, but just in a general interest kind of sense. So I guess that's a little bit of me and my background. As I said, I was raised Catholic, Christian, but I've identified as agnostic for more than half of my life now. And how did I come to that conclusion? So let's finally get to the meat and potatoes of the topic. There's several ways to approach it. I could go the complexity route, stating, physics and the size of the universe and all that, and how that relates, because trust me, it has a link. But I'll start in more simple terms. There is zero, I believe this is a correct number, but the point is that it's an extremely small number. Let's say, I think the actual number is 0.4%, but let's just say there's less than 1% of difference in the DNA between a human and a chimpanzee. How many more things does that 0.4% of difference allow us to do? We are, sorry, Miska's taking care of business. I'll be right back after this. Hold that thought. Okay, so, what was I saying? So there's, how much more can a human do? The smartest chimpanzee in the world is able to use sign language to communicate, a few dozens or maybe up to 100 words. They can finger paint, right? They do have a lot of stuff that we share, right? Like they use tools or social blah blah blah. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing the chimpanzee. My point is more that, with that 0.4% or less than 1% difference, you go from being able to finger paint with tools provided to you to building rocket ships that go to the moon, and lasers and GPS and everything else, that Mona Lisa, the pyramids. That's less than 1% difference in our DNA. Now there's a 50% difference between humans and bananas. There's a whole lot more that we can do than bananas, right? But my point is that if you project that and you think, I'm kind of stating my argument on why anyway, never mind. I'll keep going. So, how much, what would an intelligence that is 1% smarter than us be able to do, right? How about an intelligence that's 2% smarter than us? That's twice as smart as us, right? Or, you know what I mean, right? Like, you project that, and by the way, this is the argument against AI and why it's freaking out all the people who actually know. People who know aren't worried about GMOs and Monsanto. They're worried about artificial intelligence because they know that we're very close to creating an artificial intelligence that will be so intelligent that we will be like dogs to them. So, but anyway, and that's kind of the point, is that imagine a being that is just a little bit more advanced than us, or a little bit more capable than us. Like, what would they be able to do? If we can jump from, finger painting or basic instinctual responses in things that are just a few marks off of our DNA, to understanding the concept of E equals MC square and actually putting it into application, what could those beings do? Do we really think that stuff like space-time and matter or energy and this and that will be a hindrance to them? Like, do we really think they won't figure that out? And there's this famous quote that I'm sure everyone knows, right, about, right? Any technology sufficiently advanced will be perceived by magic, will be perceived as magic by those who don't understand it or don't know it, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Anything that's just a little bit smarter than us, it wouldn't take much to... Oh, sorry, I just saw some rabbit that went under that car right there. Okay. So, yeah, something just a little bit better than us. I really believe that what they would be able to do, they probably wouldn't be limited by matter energy conversion, for example. So they could materialize things out of thin air, possibly, right? They could do things that we humans would perceive as gods. And I'm sure that everyone is familiar with the ancient astronaut alien theory, blah blah blah, right? But that's where I guess I'm coming from. That's the first part of it, I guess. Sorry, because I'm not giving a full, complete argument. I'm sure I haven't given it yet. So that's kind of the first part. Anything a little bit smarter than us, we could probably ascribe to it the powers of a god, up and including possibly even the creation of planets and matter and species, and it's not like we do genetic engineering already, right? So all of that stuff, all those powers that we ascribe to God, I'm pretty sure would be reachable by something or that's a bit smarter than us, or our future descendants, or something like that. So that's the first point. And the second point is that, do you have any idea how big the universe is? I'm sure you think you do, but you really, really, really don't. And without going into all the mathematics about it, just look at the number of stars in our galaxy. Now, take that number of stars in our galaxy, and how many galaxies are there? And that's just in the observable universe that we've seen so far. And each one of those galaxies has that many solar systems. And how many of those have planets and blah, blah, blah. Like, it is... I forget the name of the equation. How am I forgetting the super famous equation? That basically calculates a probability that aliens exist. And how am I forgetting the name of that equation? Oh my god, I feel stupid. I should know this, but Anyway, I'm sure you can look it up. You just Google like alien probability equation or something like that, and I'm sure you'll find it right away. Anyway, that's gonna bother me that I don't remember the name. The point is that like it's so unlikely that there is not at least several other planets that are inhabited in our galaxy, let alone in the universe. How much hubris must it take for a human to believe that they are the pinnacle of complexity, organization, intelligence, however you want to call it, in the entire universe? We are so new. We've been around for, civilization has been around for a few thousand years. Homo sapiens, what, a few million at most? I don't remember the exact number. Sorry, anthropologists. But the point is that we are such a young species. I think it is almost mathematically impossible, first of all, that there are no other civilizations that have evolved, but that most importantly, no other civilizations that have evolved to a point where we would consider one of the representatives again as a quote-unquote a god. And at a certain point, we also have to consider that every religion defines their God a little bit slightly differently and ascribes different powers to their God or gods, right? So, really, what I'm talking about might not fully exactly meet the exact definition of, let's say, the Christian all-powerful creator God, but that's also not the only definition of God, right? And I'm sorry if I'm offending any Christians by saying that, but there's a whole lot of there's a lot more people on the planet that have lived and or that are currently living who do not believe the same thing as you and who have a different definition of what God is, right? So, take a chill pill or a humble cookie, I don't know. Take a little bit, shot of humility and realize that I'm talking in a little bit broader sense here. So, what is out there? I sure as hell don't know. Everything that I just said makes me believe that, there has to be something out there that is so much beyond our understanding that they're effectively, and for all intents and purposes, a god or gods, right, compared to us. And but I don't know what's out there, and I don't know how to describe it, what level of intelligence or complexity, what powers they have, what name they have, if they even have a name, are there even a single entity, right? Or is it more a force throughout the universe, right? That's guiding, kind of a universal consciousness, one might say, right? Point is, I do not know. And I think it is complete hubris to believe that you do. And that also applies to the atheists who categorically refuse the existence of any God, right? Because, as I just said, statistically speaking, I think they're wrong. And they have no logical argument that I know of that completely disproves the existence of God, right? That makes atheism irrefutable. And because if they did, there would be more atheists around, right? Not that that's a good argument. It's not because people weren't convinced that the argument doesn't exist, but I think you get my point. If you do know of an irrefutable argument for atheism, please let me know. But in the meantime, I think that until we know everything about the universe and are able to, ourselves create matter from nothing and, do all those things that we consider as godlike powers, until that time, we really can't know what's out there, and we can't for sure say, we can't prove the negative. We can't prove that God, or something like God, doesn't exist. So sorry, atheists, but I think you're as wrong as religious folks, regardless of their religion. One last point I guess I want to make about religion and fanaticism is, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how I want to approach this point without offending everyone. Okay, in your religion, you might believe that God is infallible. But I personally do not know of a single human who's infallible. And every single thing that has been written down in any book or any holy scripture book, whatever it is, any revelation, quote, with a capital R, Misa, come on. We're taking way too long sniffing everything. And it's cold. And these... anyway. Sorry. Old gal. Love me. Anyway. What was I saying? Yeah. So, everything that we got, quote unquote, from God, or from a God, or from gods, or from spirits, or whatever it is, right? Whether you believe in animism and think that Earth is the God, right? Gaia doesn't matter. Everything that's written down, everything that we know, has been filtered and passed on through a human. And no human is infallible. And every human has biases. See my conversation on Nietzsche the other day. I didn't really go in depth into it. I'm sure I will at another time, because Nietzsche is, as I mentioned before, my favorite philosopher by far. But as Nietzsche kind of pointed out and proved, every single human is shaped by everything that came before them and is biased as a result. We're limited by the language that we use. It's been shown that the way, your language actually influences your thought pattern, which is why people who speak a primary language, I was going to go into numbers and how they're counted. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is that everything is filtered. Everything that got to you has been filtered, has been distorted, has been twisted, even if it's just a slightly little bit. The fact is, what you're thinking of as the truth with a capital T, I don't think it is. It's the truth that was parroted with a lowercase t, that was parroted or invented by some dude or some gal somewhere at some time. And, if you repeat something enough times, it becomes true, right? Well, that's kind of what's happening with humans, right? Humans kind of need to create bonds that would hold their societies together, so that, to go back to another conversation I had, so that their in-group can become larger and dominate the outgroups and outcompete them. So religion, in my mind, is just another social tool that was built through hierarchical patterns in order to, that's not the right word, patterns, anyway, it was another way to take control, maintain control, expand your in-group, right? That's all it is. So I guess that long-winded side point is that humans are flawed, and I don't believe that I just don't believe humans. I just don't believe people, right? I know that's ironic because I believe scientists, right? I kind of believe in science, but also I've done a lot of experiments myself, and I've shown that, I understand what's behind science and why it's different. And there's still potential issues, right? It's easy to reproduce Isaac Newton's gravitational experiments, right? It's a lot more difficult to reproduce the CERN smashing atoms, right? So there is, in my mind, a little bit of faith there, but at least the process makes sense and is logical and it's supposed to be, repeatable and all that stuff. But so I'm really meandering around the point. I think humans are fallible. I think that whatever you think is true in your book has been distorted from whatever actual truth would have come from whatever actual God you believe in. That it might as well be a work of fiction. Now, I hope you understand that doesn't invalidate in my mind the philosophy that comes from that religion and the wisdom of its teachings. But I just don't believe in fairy tales, unfortunately. And it's not because one fairy tale was elevated above others that it's undeniably, unmistakably true, and that you can't uncontestably true. So that's really why I'm an agnostic. I think that atheists can't prove that something that would fit our definition of a God doesn't exist. And religious people, well, basically they're just parroting what was told to them by another human. And since all humans are flawed, limited, and biased, whatever they think is true is not. And they have no way to prove that they or their group is more right than the billions of other humans who believe a slightly different thing. Especially when you look in the historical aspect and realize how almost every religion was derived from the one before it and all its points and commons, and you realize it's just a continuation of the same myth, right, of the earth diver. So anyway, on that note, I hope this made sense. It was apparently a little bit of a longer one, but I hope it was worth it. Again, I'm very much looking forward to hearing any comments you may have. Let me know how far off the track, how wrong I am, and why your religion is the only one that's true, or why, or how atheists can prove that God doesn't exist. I'm very interested. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.